you ever wondered if it's actually possible to build a wildly profitable firm without 24/7 obsessive, exhaustive work?
That's when I kind of realized, I don't actually have a business. I literally just had a really busy Libby that was the 100% bottleneck of the business.
Are you navigating a firm transition or thinking about it and wondering how to guide your clients through the change with clarity and confidence?
The human brain is wired to want to know what to expect next. I use the analogy of the Domino's pizza tracker. We like to know what's happening next.
If you're looking for the balance of delivering an amazing experience and working efficiently, this episode is for you. Our guest today is Libby Greiwe. She's a systems queen, a client experience architect, and a former advisor who built a 7-figure practice, all while working fewer hours than most of us probably spend in email each week. She's the creator of the Efficient Advisor podcast, coaching, and courses, and she's going to talk with us today about what freedom really looks like, including how do we re-onboard clients after we've made a change, and how do we scale our practice with less stress and more joy. Welcome to the podcast. Libby, welcome to Advisors Off Script. It is so good to have you here.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
I am too. I have been fangirling you for the last several years. So I'm thrilled to have you on the podcast. I do want for my listeners, let's rewind just for a quick moment. You built a practice, built it up to 7 figures, sold it, exited, and now you coach advisors. What was the moment when you started in your practice and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. I know I have to do something differently. And you started creating now what you coach advisors to do?
Yeah, so it was actually a very distinct moment that I can remember very, very specifically. So I started my business in 2004 and I built a exceptional practice. I was working around the clock like a crazy person, nights, weekends. A client wanted to meet Friday at 6 p.m. I was there. I was your girl. Saturday at 10 a.m. Sure. And then I found out I was pregnant. And it was great because my husband at the time and I really wanted kids. So we were super excited. But I can remember being in that moment and thinking there is just no shot that I can be the kind of mom that I want to be and still have my dream business. I was super successful. I was excited about where my revenue was. I was excited about what I was building. And I didn't want to give up the vision that I had for that practice. And at the same time, it was an instantaneous priority shift for me. And that's when I kind of realized, I don't actually have a business, the kind with a vision and structure and systems. I literally just had a really, really busy Libby that was the 100% bottleneck of the business.
That is a tough place to be. Just this week, I had a client leave me a voicemail and they were like, congratulations on not picking up your phone, as I have been putting in some limits on my own availability as well. And I've just put in a buffer day in the middle of the week so that I have a day to get caught up and I'm not running as ragged as I was in the very early days of the business. So
Yes.
I can relate to that so much. Before I want to come, we're going to bounce around a little. Okay.
Good. I have ADHD, girl, so I am here for that.
All right. So we're going to bounce around. And so one of the topics I want to hit on is something that you brought up to me, which was, in our business here at Muriel Consulting, we are helping advisors make transformation in their businesses. We're seeing them moving firms, standing up their own RIAs, et cetera. And one of the things we always talk about is the messaging around that. Mm-hmm. And you brought up to me one day around the psychology of the client in that transition. Can you talk a little bit about the psychology of a client during a transition and what you've experienced as your business went through transitions?
Yeah. And so it's interesting because when I made that shift, right, when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, oh man, I gotta get the back into this business together and start building some systems and processes. The first thing that I started doing was building all of this through the lens of the business. How do I do it better, faster, smarter, cheaper, or easier? And we started building out all of these processes to expedite the process, right? To have less processing errors, to make things happen faster, to do transitions faster, to move the money, to take the applications, to have less NIGOs. We were doing everything through the business lens. And what I realized was, while that was super awesome for us that didn't always lend itself to the best possible client experience. So we had to kind of come back and wrapper everything that we were doing through the lens of like, okay, great. How do we actually move the client through this process too? So how do we do it through the business lens? And then how do we actually look at this through how the client is experiencing that process? So for me, when we build out processes in our group coaching cohort or our courses, we always start with what is the client feeling coming into this process? And what do we want them to be feeling at the end? And then use our process to actually move them across that invisible bridge. So I'll give you kind of a quick example, right? So if we are, let's just think about traditional onboarding, right? If a client, we go through our whole planning process, right? We do the discovery, we do the data gathering, we come up with some great analysis and super cool recommendations. The client says yes. If our process as an advisor is to just be like, okay, director of operations, go ahead and draft up the paperwork and DocuSign that over to the client, and you take the rest of the day off because you're like, that was a $2 million rollover. I'm super excited. Like, go me, right? The advisor is being flooded with serotonin. Like, I did a good job. I'm super excited. This client loves us. We're going to just have this amazing relationship. And the client is excited too. But what we forget is that as soon as we get off that Zoom call or as soon as they leave our office, while we're being flooded with like a go me serotonin, they're actually being flooded with cortisol, right? They're like, I'm super excited to work with her. Oh, but did we do enough research? Did we interview enough advisors? Like, what? Oh my gosh, we have to break up with Dave. He was a perfectly fine advisor. He didn't really do anything wrong. What are we going to even say to him? And what's that going to look like? And how uncomfortable will that be? And oh my goodness, we have to set up a new portal and get all of our accounts switched over. And that's gonna be so much paperwork. And what's it gonna look like at tax time? And right, they're going through this whole journey. So if our process from the business side is like, well, let's just DocuSign them some paperwork and go hit the golf course because we could take the day off early because we did so good today. If we neglect this experience that our clients are having, that they're going through essentially what is buyer's remorse, our process actually needs to address what they're experiencing, so the psychology of what they're experiencing. And so when we think about client experience through a transition, right? The client, sometimes advisors depend too much on the relationship capital that they've built with their clients. They're like, oh my gosh, they love me. They'll forgive our mess, even if it's a really bumpy process. They love me. Everything's going to be just fine. And we have to think about like, well, actually, what are they really genuinely experiencing, right? Because the advisor is typically super overwhelmed with the whole process in and of itself. Like, right, we've been working with Shelby and her team, and we've got the branding figured out. We've got our messaging. We've got the new custodians set up. We've got a pecking order of how we're going to meet with our clients. We've got our script down and we're doing all of the things, right? And we have to really think at it through like, okay, well, first and foremost, what do our clients feel when we start having the conversation and bringing them into the loop that we're making this change? And where do we want them to be at the end? And then how do we actually make sure there are key points in our process that help move them across that invisible bridge?
I love that idea of the invisible bridge. I also really appreciate your call out about cortisol flooding them. That is so interesting. And I haven't put that into words in that exact same way, right? I think about how do you keep clients informed after they've said, yes, I'm going to move with you? How do you keep them informed into the next steps of the process? But I guess what we're doing by keeping them informed in those next steps of the process is we're keeping that cortisol down.
Yeah.
We're keeping that down so that they can feel good about making the move.
Yeah. And it's not even just like, hey, here's what's happening. It's here's what's happening and why that's good for you, or here's what's happening and what you can expect next. So kind of that extra layer of layering in that psychology of like, okay, instead of just sending an email saying, okay, great, you're going to get the paperwork DocuSigned over in the next couple of days. We're going to have some paperwork coming over. Lori is going to sit down and walk you through that so that you feel really comfortable understanding exactly what you're signing. And then here's what you can expect. Here's the timeline. Here's the steps. Here's the potential points that could go wrong and what intervention we might need you to have. Here's how we're going to keep you informed of everything. And once the money arrives, here's what's going to happen. That, like, giving them all of this information so that they feel confident in the transition, right? Like our goal clients is the minute, and I can say this because I've transitioned to business, the minute I told clients I'm leaving, right? Even though we listed all of the exciting stuff that, here's what's not going to change, here's what's going to change. And the minute I said I'm leaving, you could see that moment of, oh, how is this going to impact me, client?
Yeah.
And in our script and our process had to be designed to help them build confidence in the competency of the guy that was buying my practice immediately. And how are we going to, like, what will that look like? Is Libby just fading into the background? Am I going to be an active participant? Like all of our process had to be designed through that lens of client psychology.
Yeah, I think that's so important because it can feel like such a shock to the client, right? The way that they've been doing business with you for, in some cases, for decades, for multiple decades, is now shifting. And that can make the new business feel a little unrecognizable. So, one of the things we talk a lot about is how do you tell them what's going to stay the same? And then how do you also create daylight between the old and the new? One of the things I observe is sometimes an advisor wants to, or a team wants to, make everything shiny and new all at the same time, right?
Yes.
We got new branding, we got a new logo, we got new systems, we've got new planning tools, new. Everything's new, and it's awesome because they're so excited about what they're building and all of these new things that they can do that maybe they were held back from before. But what are maybe some smart ways that advisors can kind of introduce that idea of new and better while still honoring the familiar?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think of it kind of like relationships, right? So if all of a sudden your spouse came to you and said, hey, tomorrow I'm going to be replaced by Beth. And, and you're like, wait, I'm sorry, what now? And it's like, and we're moving and we're switching out the kids and you're going to have a different job. I'm going to have Beth will have a different job. Everything in your world is going to be different, right? That would feel very overwhelming.
Ooh,
right?
yeah.
That's a lot.
Like,
and so
mind-blowing,
mind
overwhelming.
blowing, right? And I mean, there might be some people who are like, I wouldn't mind it if my spouse made a little switchy switch for a minute there. But like when everything in your world is changing, it's a lot more, you're a lot more cortisol, right? A lot more
Yes.
stress. And if your clients are having to adjust to a new advisor with a totally new philosophy and a new portal and a new custodian and new account numbers and a new staff or new team to integrate with, a totally new office location that looks and feels and smells completely different, it's a lot of change. And what we underestimate is I was just doing a speaking engagement with Hartford Funds, and they had done some research that showed that in any given year, about 75% of our clients have a moment where inside of that year, they're like, I wonder if I should switch advisors. And not necessarily like actively pursuing it, but they have this moment of, is my advisor doing the right things for me? Should I make a change? Is it too expensive? Am I getting what I want? Are they the right fit for me moving forward? And if we're not, as advisors, if we're not capturing that as part of our process, like, hey, there might have been a point in time this year where they thought about potentially switching. And here I am thrusting this massive change on them. This might be a really great catalyst or opportunity for them to go, you know what? Everything is changing anyways. I might as well go seek out and interview some new firms and see if there might be a better fit for me. Versus like, hey, everything for the most part is staying the same. We're just going to be making a slow adjustment, or here's exactly what you can expect, and making people feel really good and comfortable about the transition. So for me, one of the things, and having transferred, having gone through the transition in my own business and walking alongside lots of advisors, not in the same way that you do, but it through the back end, like the business, the systems and processes side of a transition, and coaching them through that, right? I've seen it happen a lot where they just are like so excited to make all of the changes, and they try to make them all up front right away overnight. And they want to like almost splash into the world with like this big new fully revamped business, thinking that that's going to be exciting and attractive to clients. And they're forgetting to look at the clients already like, oh no, I'm losing Libby as an advisor. oh no, everything that's changing too, and that's changing too. And when there's this familiarity where they're now having to log in somewhere different and all of their account numbers have changed and it's a different custodian and what their accounts were nicknamed before are no longer nicknames and now they're just account numbers and everything changing, that's a lot of stress hormones that our clients are going to be experiencing. And we're completely missing the opportunity because a good process not only does the paperwork part, right? Like every good process, there's kind of three layers, right? There's the bottom layer, a good process has a documented and well thought through kind of what I call the paperwork layer, which is the nuts and bolts, like the moving money from A to B, the setting up the account, the getting them logged into the portal, the signing of the paperwork. The second layer, which makes a great process, is this layer of expectations where we actually take the time to lay out what to expect in this process for our clients and for ourselves and our team. And then an exceptional process has this, what I call the remarkable layer. And that's where we actually use the process to build human to human connection with our clients, to actually deepen
Yes.
the relationship. And if we're not thinking about a business transaction through the lens of like, how do we actually use this to make the relationship with our clients deeper? And if we're just assuming coming into it, like, oh, they love me, they love our company, we have all of this relationship capital, I don't need to worry about that. We're completely neglecting this experience that our clients are having, and we're missing this opportunity to use the transition as a way to actually deepen the relationship.
I think that's so important. And this idea of that remarkable layer, I mean, I think that's where hopefully a team will have a really strong process that we're building from. And then now we can layer on that additional element. Your whole model is really about kind of that systems and the personalization, but still systemed wise. When
Mhm.
you think about that transition and that remarkable layer, what are some of the just top line ideas that you would have for how we can make that more remarkable?
So, a couple of things. So, the human brain is wired to want to know what to expect next. So, kind of, I use the analogy of like the Domino's pizza tracker. So, if you've ever ordered pizza from Domino's, the minute you place the order online, this pizza tracker pops up, right? And it shows you, okay, your order has been placed. And now it's like a bar graph. And then now your pizza remote is putting the toppings on your pizza. Okay, now your pizza is in the oven and cooking. Okay, the pizza is out for delivery, and then it shows delivered. And I can remember when my boys were little, they would, after we would order on Domino's, they would sit in front of the iPad and they'd be like, Red Pound's putting on the toppings. It's on its way. And they were so excited to watch this bar graph. And and it's because we like to know what's happening next. So I would love for every advisor to have some version of the Domino's pizza tracker. And it doesn't have to be this like digital bar graph that shows up, but some sort. For us in my practice, it was a weekly email just letting people know, here's what's been completed, here's what we're still working on, here's what we need you to do, if anything, here's what we're doing next, and here's what you can expect. So I think through the lens of a transition that as we're moving money, especially if there's a repapering involved or a new
Mhm.
portal that needs to be set up, kind of here are all of the things that we're tackling, keeping the clients in the loop. And from an advisory standpoint, you're like, okay, that's like a lot of work. Yes. When you, just like a good marriage, everything that is worth having requires a lot of effort. And so layering in some of these expectations of here's what's been completed, here's what's still working on, and having that come to them weekly, bi-weekly, whatever cadence you choose, doesn't matter. But keeping the clients informed, saying, hey, you're going to get this email every Tuesday at 8 a.m. And here's what it's going to have. And clients can kind of track the progress. Because what we don't want to have happen is a couple of accounts move and then your client's picking up the phone and calling and saying, hey, I see that this one, what's going on with this one? Or where are we
Yes.
at on the old, IRA that was my Procter & Gamble 401k, right? Like we want them to feel like we've got this, we're paying
Mhm.
attention, we're moving it through. And just that weekly email or bi-weekly email to clients that just exhibits that professionalism, that this is not going to be a mess, that we're wanting to think about how you, the client, feel. And here's what you can expect next. As soon as all of this money arrives, the other thing I would suggest is what we would call, so my area of expertise, right, is the first 100 days of a client's experience and how to
Yes.
onboard in a way that uses that first 100 days to build such a deep, lifelong relationship with your clients that it actually drives referrals right away. And inside of like my onboarding course, we talk about, well, how do I go back and re-onboard existing clients? So I kind of look at a business transition through the lens of almost as if we're re-onboarding clients,
100%.
but to the new business. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. And so in our first 100 days for new clients, we do what we call a formal onboarding meeting. So once all of the money has transitioned and all of the dust has settled, we want to get the clients set up so that they feel super organized and functional in working with us. So instead of just sending them an email saying, hey, your new portal's set up, go ahead and create your login and go in and check it out and get in there and click that you want e-delivery instead of paper statements, and go ahead and add your banking to the right accounts that you want on file to there, and double check your beneficiaries, or add this and add that. What we don't want to do is make our transition a to-do list for our clients, right? That is not deepening the relationship. Like, hey, we're making this change unbeknownst to you, and now you have to spend a Saturday morning for a couple of hours trying to get logged into this new account and setting up all of these things and making sure we have the right authorizations on file. So instead, I would love for advisors and for advisors listening that are like, wow, that sounds like a lot of work. Yeah, it is. It is. But the dividends, the ROI on it is huge relationship capital that this is not a here you go do it yourself. This is a done with you process. And instead, so what it looked like in our practice would be my director of operations, and it doesn't have to be done by the advisor. This is scalable by having your team do some of this, but saying, hey, let's go ahead and get you logged into the new portal and let me show you around. Let's go ahead together, whether this is in person or on Zoom, let's add those nicknames. Let's update the banking and make sure we've got the right banking on file for you. Let me show you around the portal. Let me show you where to find your tax documents. Let's double check X, Y, and Z. Let's go ahead and get the app downloaded on your phone and let's make sure you can get logged in, right? Like how can we think through the lens of like a Ritz-Carlton concierge? How can we anticipate our clients' needs before they have them? And how can we make it easy for them, setting expectations and getting them excited? Like, here's why this is so cool. Remember when we told you the new portal would allow you to look at your Money Guide Pro and run these scenarios? Let me show you how to do that. Let me show you what's in here. So instead of them fumbling around on a Saturday morning, which they're not going to do, by the way, anytime we give our clients a big giant to-do list, they're going to go, what's the minimum viable product here? Okay, I got logged in. That's all I'm going to do for today. And then the rest kind of gets cast aside. And then the worst thing that could happen is they sit down a couple Saturdays because the market has gone crazy and now they can't log in or they don't know what they're looking at. They're not sure which account it is, right? And then their
eyes have glazed over. Right. Their eyes glazed over when you tried to tell them what they were needed to do, and now they don't remember, and now it's a crisis.
Right. And now it's Saturday. They're emailing you. You're not going to respond till Monday because you have good boundaries and you're not checking your email on your weekends, right? You're not going to respond till Monday. Well, now they're back in the throes of their work week, and who knows when they're going to have an opportunity to really sit down and look at this. And we have to think through the lens of client psychology that from Saturday until Monday when they get their email, or until they have time to sit down and get properly logged in, they're kind of pissed, right? They're frustrated. And we want to avoid friction. So thinking through like, well, what are all of the potential friction points that our clients could have in this process? And how do our job as advisors is to ease that friction, even if it involves a little extra time and energy.
Yeah, I think that's super important. And I think one of the things that they can do is having those appointment times to say, hey, on this Saturday or on these days, we are going to just take appointments in order to show them how to use the new systems, how to get logged in, make sure that they don't have any challenges, et cetera. And I love the pizza tracker. I talk about a pizza tracker all the time, Libby. So I love it that you loved that also. I like that we have that in common, that we talk about the pizza tracker.
That's so fun.
Because it is like a pizza tracker. And when somebody is moving from one firm to another and there is a repapering, there is a tracker of things that have to happen. And some accounts are going to be on one track timeline and some accounts are going to be on a second kind of track timeline. And we gotta track it all. We gotta keep track of it for the clients. And then we have to be able to inform them of where things are. So I love that. One of the things that I have really appreciated in your teaching is this really important blend of client experience and systems, and that client experience can be such a part of your marketing, right? And that you can create a client journey that is set apart without losing the personal sort of magic, if you will. What are some of the simple kind of wow moments, in addition to Pizza Tracker maybe, that advisors can build in and sort of to help reinforce those relationships that are now new again?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a couple of different things that I would include is I would not, and you could start writing these out well before you even announce the transition, start having those meetings with your clients, but something simple like a handwritten thank you card expressing, so there's a specific formula to it. Like, we are so excited about this transition. So, we want to maintain the frame that this is exciting, that this change that we're making is going to be so cool for the client. Not because I, the advisor, am getting a bigger percentage on my AUM, not because it's going to be easier for me or I'm building a lifestyle practice or whatever. We're so excited about this transition because what it's going to be able to allow us to do for you, client. And thanking them right away for sticking with us and setting the expectation that this might get a little bumpy, but we promise we're going to be watching everything along the way. Thank you for being part of this. We're super excited to serve you in this new way. And it's something that is so low tech, something that is so simple, and something that goes a long way because, right, the buyer's remorse, this cortisol response that we have is highest within the first 48 hours, right? That's when our brain switches from, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to, oh, wait a minute. Oh no, what's this going to look like? How much paperwork is this going to be? What's it going to look like? Is it going to trigger taxes? Do we want to do this? Should we look at other options? Like they're going through this thing and we need to get that card out to them within the first 48 hours of us having that conversation with them. And something about taking the time to do a handwritten, and yes, you're using a template, but it seems so silly, but it can go so far in making a client go, oh yeah, they've got this.
Yeah.
Look, they wrote a card to us. Like this is relational, not just business. So it seems so silly like that. The second thing I would do is I would do what we call a paperwork party. So instead of, and it's going to be our natural inclination as advisors to do it the fastest and easiest, like lowest, like what's the lowest hanging fruit? Because we have a lot going on in a transition. We just want to DocuSign all of the paperwork to our clients and say, here, sign all of this and send it back to us. And again, we're neglecting that the client didn't ask for this change, right? We need to be thinking about, well, what does this feel like for them? So we want to, number one, if you just send a bunch of paperwork to a client, they're going to, again, be like, okay, when do I have time to sit down and look through this? And we have found that transition times can move up dramatically. So in my own practice, we were able to increase our processing time. We were able to cut it in half by hosting what we called paperwork parties. So putting time on our client's schedule and saying, hey, Thursday at noon for 20 minutes, we just want to hop on Zoom with you and walk you through all of this new paperwork and explain to you what it is, what's changing, what's staying the same, and what you can expect next for each and every single piece of business. So instead of the client feeling like that pressure to be like, okay, I have to sit down on a Saturday and go through all of this paperwork on my own, and I'm going to run into questions or, ooh, this doesn't make any sense, right? And they're going to be having that stress feeling of like, oh, well, they just told me to sign this, but I don't really even know what I'm signing, right? Instead, just carving out that time for someone in your team to walk them through it, make them feel really good. And again, building excitement is really critically important in this window. And so using the paperwork party to actually build excitement and then send them the follow-up email directly after the paperwork party saying, here's what we did. Here's what you can expect next. We're super excited for this transition. Again, here's why. And after the dust settles, we're going to be sitting down and doing this formal onboarding meeting. We're going to get you all set up in the portal. Don't worry. You won't have to lift a finger. We're going to do this all with you. This is a done with you, not a DIY scenario.
Yeah, I love that word of done with you because I do think that there are so many accounts to move. And sometimes advisors, one of the things I see in a really good successful transition is that we are usually trimming the book of business at the same time.
Yes.
And that can feel a little bit scary because you're like, oh my gosh, what if these big clients don't come with me and then I do need these smaller clients, et cetera. And we just have to push through that fear. And somebody said the other day to me, I forgot the phrase was, everything you want in life, I had to get it out over here. Everything you want in life is on the other side of fear.
Yes.
And one of my clients, they have this sign hanging in their home. Everything you want in life is on the other side of fear. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love it.
Yes.
Right. But I think that we get so caught up sometimes in the moment of transition. We get such high anxiety about the transition that we start to rush through these client pieces. And to your point, we're forgetting about the client's cortisol levels, and we're forgetting about the extra hand-holding that just can help them bring down those cortisol levels and feel even more secure in their choice. You made a comment a moment ago about in those 48 hours after that the cortisol is spiking and they're getting that sort of buyer's remorse. What they're also doing in that time period during a transition is they are going to your website and checking it out.
Yes.
And that website better be good, you know?
And they might even be receiving phone calls from other agents at that firm who are like, hey, just stay here. It's going to be easier.
Yeah, yeah. And then inertia can set in, but they are going to your site and they need to see you. They need to see your face. You need to have a great video. You need to have a great logo. It needs to tell your story in a really personal way that resonates well and gives them confidence in your ongoing competence through this process. And then those little notes that you just mentioned, Libby, I love that idea of the handwritten note. Now, one question I have for you is, what about swag? Should I be sending them some elaborate, wonderful, amazing mug or cup or shirt or hat or swag?
Yeah. So, I mean, is it a bad thing to send swag? No, it's not. It's not. There's nothing wrong with swag. We just have to think of it through the lens of it's not a gift, it's marketing. So as long as you're thinking about it properly, that's all I care about. So if you're thinking like this would be a fun little gift to give them with the new logo on it and build excitement, I think in this scenario, swag actually makes a lot of sense. Now, in a normal circumstance, when you're just signing a client for the very first time, I personally don't want something that feels like a gift, and swag is not a gift, to come at the time of the transaction. What we don't want it to feel like is you did business with me, I got paid, therefore I feel obligated to give you a thing, right? Like I personally would love in that brand new client experience to wait a little bit and then do something that's actually personal, something that makes the client feel seen, makes the client feel heard, makes the client feel known, something that's customized to their likings and their preferences. Now, in this case, on a transition, I think it's actually really appropriate to be like, and guess what? Here's a Yeti with our new logo, and we're so excited. Like, I think that's part of that excitement building piece too, and that could definitely come with the handwritten thank you card. In this scenario, I like swag.
Okay, good. I like paperwork parties. I think you could have some great swag there. You can have some great, cookies, and you could make that an experience, right? I can imagine the new logo on some, takeaway cookies also in addition. I mean, I think you can do a lot of really fun and wonderful things with that. I love that idea. The other place I like to see a logo pull up, by the way, just as an aside, is often when somebody goes independent, they can have their own app in the App Store, which I just think is the coolest for a brand new practice. And so then that's fully branded with your new name, et cetera, as well. So there's these little touches that can sort of just reinforce, again, the confidence and the excitement with the brand. So yeah.
Yeah. And what it says is, I'm not just like winging it. I'm not like going out on my own and flapping in the wind and like figuring out, building the plane as I fly, even if you are, right? Like, I have a brand. We've thought this through. I know what I want it to look like, what I want it to feel like. And like you said, it's really important to build that confidence and the competency of what we're doing and getting people excited about it. So having that like website that just says like under construction or coming soon makes it feel like the idea is not fully baked. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And so we want it to be fully baked. And it's funny because I feel like I have this reputation on LinkedIn for being anti-swag. And don't get me wrong, I was just at the Charles Schwab Impact Conference and I came home with so much swag. I love swag, but it is marketing. And I think in this circumstance, marketing makes sense because you're launching a new brand.
Oh my gosh. Well, if you love the swag at the Schwab Impact, have you been to Future Proof yet?
Not yet.
Because oh my goodness. I mean, the swag is so good because you're on this beach, so a lot of themed things, etc. I mean, it's a strong swag game for sure. Yeah. All right, well, let's talk about Schwab Impact because you were just there. You had 800 people that attended your session.
Yes.
When you think about your session and what you were talking about, maybe also what you heard in the hallways, like what themes really stood out for you from your conversations at Schwab Impact?
Yeah. So what kind of my takeaway from the conference was, and one of my favorite parts about speaking is that line afterwards that's lined up to talk to you. And one of the common themes that those folks had was there's nothing inherently wrong with my business, right? Like the business isn't necessarily broken. Clients aren't leaving in droves. It's not like I'm bleeding money and I can't figure out how to tourniquet the wound. A lot of advisors are in this place where they're like, I know I want to do better on the client experience side. Like our clients are happy, our clients are content, they're not leaving, but I know that I am not delivering the level of experience that I came into this business wanting to deliver. And that's really one of the themes that I have seen kind of, and obviously for obvious reasons for my sessions, but I've seen a lot of people saying, thank you for like giving us the track to run on to build out the systems and processes that actually save us time in our business so that we can redeploy that effort and energy to enhancing the experience and giving us some structure that allows us to level up the way that we're engaging with our clients and making sure that it's impactful for them. And this is not a client pull. This is an advisor push, like just from that innate desire to want to serve people at the highest level and make the experience, steel proof, right? We want our clients to be not just satisfied with what we're doing, but we want them to be so excited about their relationship that they're giving us referrals, that they're lifetime clients, that the lifetime value, they want to be all in with all of their business with us. And that really is achieved through using systems and processes to enhance the client experience.
Absolutely. I was at a conference a few months ago. It was the one Matthew Jarvis and Stephen Jarvis put on their Retirement Tax Summit event. And one of the advisors I was talking with there, she had such conviction that she's a good advisor. And so her whole thing is, how do I get to have more impact with more clients, more conversations with more clients, and deliver that impact so that I can benefit them even more, right? So I can benefit more people in my community, et cetera. So I love the systems approach and the efficiency mindedness that you bring along with that client experience because it allows advisors to really deepen their impact.
Yeah, and to
expand.
increase capacity to serve more.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Well, this conversation has been so fantastic and so fun, Libby. Again, like I'm such a fangirl over here. So I always like to end with a few sort of lightning round questions. And I know you're a big believer in AI, and AI is so much of what you talk about these days. What is like a tool or a tech or an AI hack that would make an advisor's life easier?
Okay, so currently, and they are a podcast sponsor, so I want to be like ultra transparent, but they're a podcast sponsor because it's a super cool tool. Like I'm not going to let someone sponsor the show that I don't love the tool. So Quinn, Quin, is an AI agent. So not just like a chat GPT, it literally can do things inside of your business. So it doesn't like just take notes and create a follow-up email. It actually goes in and looks at the history of the client from your CRM and adds in that color and that client intel. It can schedule tasks. It can schedule reminders. It can do so many things. So I use it in my own business and it has saved me anywhere from like 15 to 20 hours a week because it can literally log into this software program and do X, Y, and Z. And then once that's complete, it can go over here and load that into my CRM and pull their email and then draft an email for me and put it in my inbox. Like it is mind-blowingly cool. So it can actually, what I love about it for advisors is it can coordinate all of the tech that you have without you having to go get new tech, if that makes sense. So like it can use your existing CRM, it can use your existing email service provider, it can use your existing planning tools. Like it can go in and integrate all of those together on your behalf and kind of start to think like an assistant. And it saves you a ton of time, but what it also does is it saves your team a ton of time. So it's not necessarily about like taking things off of your team or like replacing jobs. It's really more like taking those Monday repetitive tasks out of the hands of your staff and giving them the freedom and time to go do the stuff that deepens the relationship and do the things that actually matters.
Oh my goodness. I've been thinking about this so much, and I'm glad to hear that you're using it in your business. It makes me think maybe I can use it in my business. So
Yes.
super excited about that and love how it's using existing technology, because one of the things that we can all do is just start stacking up all these little kind of subscriptions and tools, et cetera. And then now we've got stuff everywhere.
Yeah, or
Right.
like,
And
oh,
so,
well, I need to switch CRMs because we
yes.
all underestimate how much process change, like the drag it actually has on your business. Like it takes 6 months to adjust to a new CRM, get everything over, get it all smoothed out, plus a ton of tears and headaches in the meantime. So instead of having to constantly switch, you can just make it all talk to each other.
Oh my gosh, that sounds beautiful, beautiful. Okay, last question for you. What is one way that you are living an off script life? Since, that's the name of our show.
Yeah, well, I think the thing I was always kind of quote unquote known for was really bucking convention. When I came into this industry as a 23-year-old female in 2004, when everybody around me was white, fat, bald, and 50, I set out to build a business that didn't look like everybody else's. And it took me a while to really figure this out. And it really was when I was pregnant that I was like, I don't want to work full time. I really want to have a 7-figure firm, but I want to be working 3 days a week. And I want to make my business serve the life that I want and work to live, not the other way around. And I have no shade at people who love working that 70, 80-hour a week grind. Like, awesome. You do you, boo-boo. I'm not worried about it. But for me, it's always been about how do I actually build a business that aligns with my values, my energy levels. How do I scale it in a way that allows me to still live a life that's not drenched in overwhelm and playing catch up on nights and weekends? And so after I sold my financial planning practice, I got divorced and was like, okay, I need something to build back up my confidence and my net worth. And like, I want to start doing this coaching again. How am I going to build this in a way that serves my new life? Right. And being really open to, okay, I have my kids 1 week on and then 1 week off. And how do I actually wrap my business around my life so that I can be the absolute best version of myself all the time? And so currently my schedule is still, I work off of a model week, which people, if they listen to the podcast, they know I talk about this all the time. But now I have 2 model weeks. I have an A week and a B week. I have an A week where I don't have my kids and it looks really, really different. And I have a B week where I do have my boys. And I don't want to say I hardly work, but it looks a lot different. It is not that 9 to 5, like I start at this time and I stop at this time. It's really built around serving the life that I want in this current season.
I love that. And I think about that, to me, is such a perfect example of living off script. Because on script, when it comes to our schedules, et cetera, is same thing every week. It's an 8 to 5 kind of schedule. We've got lunch from noon to 1. Like, it is the cookie cutter experience. And what you've done is you've just taken complete agency over your schedule and you said, I'm going to have an A week and a B week, and they're going to run differently because that's what's going to work for me and my family much better. I love that. So thank you for sharing that for all of the moms and the parents and really anybody that's listening. I think that's such a powerful lesson, is that we do get to choose. We get to choose. We make a choice every day, every week, every year about how we run our lives. And that idea is so much about what Advisors Off Script is about. It's about taking agency. So thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you for being here. This was a fabulous conversation.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and I have really enjoyed getting to know you over the last year or so. And thank you for everything that you do for the advisors that I work with and helping them through their transitions. It's just a fantastic business that you've built, and in the way in which you serve, I just, love it. Chef's kiss.
Oh, same to you. As I said earlier, I send everybody to your podcast as well. I just think the way that you approach it from a client experience, client centricity model is so powerful for advisors. And, just in closing up to our listeners, I hope you're building a practice that you love. And if you're feeling stuck in the weeds, make sure you go check out Libby's podcast and her coaching at The Efficient Advisor. If you're chasing inbox zero, I know she's got some great tools like Quinn and the BMO automation people, etc., of all of these folks who are trying to scale and help you, give you the tools to scale. So go check out her podcast as well. And until next time, we'll see you soon.
Thanks so much, Shelby.
Thank you.